that we're all to blame. Oh, my fellow Americans, are we reaping our harvest of greed? Have we built our house on sinking sand? Why are we being ugly Americans?
Welcome to Homeowners for Justice, Weekdays Live. This is CJ Holmes, your founder and host today, and I am just so excited. We have updates from California to Georgia, and before we get those folks on the air, I just have to share with you what's going on in Washington, D.C. I don't know how many of you have actually seen the Frontline episode, and I'm going to show that to you, and I will have it linked. It's now on the internet, so you can just watch it on the internet. But I want to bring to your attention a web page that I have had now for a year on my Homeowner for Justice website, and it's called Corrupt Officials. I think I used to call it something else, Crisis of Fraud or something. But this is the point. This is Corrupt Officials, and I have listed down in the body of that web page, which I'm scrolling down right now, and I want you to take a look at it. I said, this is the fix is in. This is why we haven't gotten justice. We were right. So here's the Untouchables. This ran just a couple of days ago on the TV, and since then, notice what's happened, and all of these links are going to be on the comments as soon after the show. The Eric Holder, U.S. Attorney General, and Lanny Brewer have been linked to banks accused of foreclosure fraud. And I've been saying for a year, they are not our friends because they used to work for Covington and Burling. That is the primo attorney firm in Washington, D.C., and they represent only the mega banks. And so Brewer and Holder have been for years not going to prosecute the banks for fraud. They can't find it, and if you don't look for it, you're not going to find it. See no evil. That's what they're doing. Now, I love this one. Lanny Brewer, Justice Department Criminal Division Chief, is stepping down. 1 or 2 days after it comes out on the air, they're stepping down. This is truly fabulous news. So I wanted to give that as an update. All these links are going to be, they're already on my Stealing Our Homes webpage. I will put them on the comments of this update section. Now, here's some other things that are going on. So heads are starting to roll, but that doesn't mean that that the people are going to be able to keep their homes. It's like a headless machine. Here we've got Kentucky, the Attorney General, going after MERS Corp. We talked about the lawsuit from Dallas last Friday, Dallas County, Texas. Very well written lawsuit. The fact of the matter is, they're going to chop off the head. This is the head. But these machines are going to just keep going and keep mowing down the people and keep stealing their homes. We have to stop that individually and personally. And that's why we did the show yesterday when we're talking about how we can do the owner false document affidavit. That's what I'm calling it. And I have a web page now for that. And we're starting to build it. We don't have it done, but we're getting step by step. And over the weekend, we're going to work on that. And also on Monday, we're going to have a new show talking about exactly what can we do step by step and how can we use this information to do two things. One, stop the foreclosure auction, number one. And number two, get those documents voided off the properties so that we don't have that threat of foreclosure, because then the people are going to be in a position of strength. They're not going to lose the house. They have legal proof that these documents were fraudulent and forged. So then they're in a stronger position to do one of two things: either get a loan modification, or I've been pressing, let's get the counties and the cities to eminent domain these loans. The banks do not have a right for payment. So let's take them, the public, and let's have those payment streams. The loans could be modified to market value from the counties and the cities that eminent domain these loans. They could be modified. The owners can start making their payments to the cities and the counties. Just think about it. Think about the revenue stream, think about the power, and then the next step is to take those contracts and use them as assets to capitalize a public bank. Come on, guys, this makes perfect sense. So follow the logic. We stop the foreclosure, we go to the recorder's office, say, okay, we all want affidavit of authority, so no more fraud can be filed on anybody's house, and then we get the forged documents voided. Think about all those people, those 4 million people that are mad as hatters, and they've lost their homes, they've lost their families. Many of these people have had divorce. Some have even committed suicide because of the pressure and stress and fraudulent theft of their homes. And so these people can go get those documents, they're still on the properties, and get those documents voided. Think about it. You get the foreclosure documents voided even if that property is sold. Now what? So we're pursuing this. We want to push this. We want restitution. We want justice. And this is what's happening. I am just absolutely tickled to death that we're starting to see heads rolling. And in fact, when the people really understand they have a tool in their hand and they can keep their house and they can get restitution, this country is going to rise up. This is the revolt that we need. We need the active revolt against the forged documents. We don't need guns. We just need certified copies and owner affidavits of false documents. And we need to inundate the recorder's office, the DA's office, the attorney general's office, the sheriff's office with all of these affidavits from thousands, millions if we could, of owners insisting that our officials step up and start doing criminal fraud procedures of prosecution against the foreclosure trustee mills. They're the ones that created all these fraudulent documents. Bring them down and pierce the veil between them and the banksters that own them, the mega banks, so that we can go after them personally for restitution. Remember what Douglas said a couple Fridays ago, I think? He'd filed the UCC ones against NationStar, and they refused to respond, and so he got liens on everybody's home and cars. If we need extra homes for all those people that lost a home fraudulently, there's a source. Let's go after the people that have perpetrated this fraud on the country, and let's take their homes. There's a thought. So, just quickly, we need to get to the updates. And I understand, but I wanted to show you, I have already linked the Kentucky Franklin Circuit Court, the Attorney General in Kentucky, Connors. They filed this on the 23rd, and it's against MERS Corp Holdings. And they are going after them. My understanding is that they are claiming that because MERS has no standing, all of those mortgages are not secured by the property. They are personal loans. That's like a credit card. This is fascinating times, guys, and we need to get all the owners in the country to follow this and to understand this is what's going on. The people are going to get justice. You mark my words. We're going to keep working. There's no rest until we get this justice and restitution. We also have the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that stepped up. Let's see how we can use those rules. And again, if you are facing a foreclosure or you know of anybody that has an auction date, file an OCC complaint. Do it right now on the web. They have a website. I've got the link on my site. It's the OCC complaint here. I'm just going to click to it. It's called File Complaints. And this will show you exactly how to do it. I've done the best I can right now to give you, here's the website, click there, fill it out. Here's some extra explanations down the web page on how to do it. I've talked here about the fact that they are lying on all of these documents, and I've started the new page for the false document affidavit. Here's the notary fraud page. This is the packages of forged signatures that I'm collecting. So as you get your documents, you send them to me. We'll build our database, and I'll keep trying to scan as fast as I can and highlight them so everybody can use the same documents and the same forged signatures in their owner affidavits of false document complaints. And then this is the page that we've started with the links from yesterday that Renee shared with us. And this is going to be changing probably every day as we bring that up to speed. So, okay. This is an Update Friday. Updates from Georgia to California. And the first one we have on with us today, I believe, is BJ Lister from Georgia. Let's see if she's on the phone. Hey, BJ, is this you?
Yes.
Thank you. Introduce yourself, please. Tell us a little about who, what, why, when, where. Who are you? What are you doing? And thank you so much for connecting with us from Georgia.
Thank you, CJ. I just want to tell you you're doing an awesome job, and I appreciate your show so much. And the amount and the value and the content and the expertise and the research behind just the information you've done in the last week is so phenomenal.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And I don't know that I have a whole lot to add. I think I got a whole lot of catching up to do.
Well, what have you been doing? Tell us about what's going on in Georgia, because I heard it's just really devastated out there.
Well, see, that's the thing about Georgia. I feel like I'm in one of those states where everybody knows that we are living in a complete absurd practice of justice here in Georgia.
Yeah.
And we're going into the courts, and we're basically being abused and denied due process. We're being intimidated. Every kind of violation that could potentially be possible against homeowners is being done.
Right.
And remember, we say that people don't necessarily know what their rights are. A lot of them are not able to hire attorneys. And even when they do hire attorneys, so few attorneys, they're walking through this for the first time themselves.
Exactly.
They've not had as much experience to litigation. But I give them credit for, being there to support the homeowners. And sometimes they're being threatened too.
Exactly.
Lawsuits.
Exactly. They are here in California.
Now, I'll talk to you about, introduce myself. My name is Bobby Joe Alexander Lister, and I'm a homeowner. I'm an advocate, and by default, I became a forensic auditor and a loan auditor. Okay, trying to really get a comprehensive understanding of what had happened to me.
Right.
And at first, I just really, really didn't believe it. I was reaching out to anyone who could possibly tell me I wasn't going crazy. Okay, because, we're out here, individuals, we're researching and we're finding things, and we're like, is that it? No, but so when we're able to connect, as I am with you now in California, I had come out to San Diego for all of my classes. And out there, I had began to meet people, and then people from Florida that we met. Now, it's like from the four corners of the United States.
Right.
There are people out there who are shedding light on the fraud that is basically raping our land and denying us due process, denying our property rights, and treating us like the skunk deadbeats. When actually, and I don't like to play the victim role, but we were mistreated in the process. All the terms of the contract were misrepresented to us.
Right.
Okay? And that's a problem in itself. They knew. Most people just went to the table to buy a house, and at this time, if they were told that their mortgage was going to be traded on Wall Street, they would have been like, hold up, wait a minute.
Right. Right.
Because we had just suffered through the technology bust. And then I think I heard you say the other day, or maybe it was Renee Powers, when we were selling real estate, and I was reading over one of my ads that real estate is the cornerstone of wealth in the United States, okay?
Right.
Well, that's true. It's just that it's not going to be owned by individual citizens anymore.
Right. That's the crime.
It's going to be owned by corporations.
That's right.
And again, not to tell my age, but I survived. I came into real estate during the Resolution Trust Corporation fallout, RTC. Okay,
Right.
it's an investor. Okay, so we remember that, and so I've been kind of in the business since then. And during that time, you know how much property came on the market at great prices because of that. But now here we are. We have so many people. I mean, and it's almost like perhaps, and I don't like to say the bottom 25%. Those people that early on that did not have any, they just thought, well, if I can't pay, I know I can't fight, and and I got to
Right.
move. And so many people just abandon their properties.
Right.
The
Right.
fear and intimidation. It's a lot of fear and intimidation. And one thing people are saying is true. That is fear and intimidation, but it's not necessarily that they have the right to do the things that they're doing. So in my quest for truth and, looking to save my home, because I really was going to let my home go. I was trying to sell it since 2006, and the market fell apart, and then the financing fell apart.
Yep. Yep.
I was at a closing table with an attorney who was buying $1 million house the day that IndyMac went under, and they were denying her the loan. And then we started to see and hear more and more things like that, where people thought they were going to close, only to get to the closing table and told no, because this whole thing was blowing up behind the scenes.
Right. Right.
So, me, in getting back to my story of my home, I just started doing research. I ordered a title report, and the title report said that the owner of my property was MERS. Well, I originated with the now bankrupt Home Bank Mortgage Corporation.
Right.
Home Bank Mortgage Corporation
Right.
had serviced my loan, and I entered into that relationship with them because they had a culture of Christianity and fairness, and I really felt like I was walking with angels.
Yes.
And
Yes.
perhaps, they were really, really good guys. A lot of good people over there.
Yeah.
But the transaction, after they went into bankruptcy and then I did not have a MERS on mortgage, so Home Bank essentially assigned my mortgage to Mortgage Electronic Registration System. Now, that assignment was done in December 2007. And when I saw that assignment, there were just squiggle marks for signatures.
I know. Take a look at my forgery page. These, and the squiggles don't even match. This is the indication, direct indication that it's a robo-signer, and that is a dismissive term. It's basically a forged signature. I keep saying the word forgery and fraud, and I keep saying, being corrected by others saying, well, you can't use that word until you have the real signature of that person. And I'm saying, but the trouble is it's not a real person, probably. It's a made-up person. So there is no real signature. And the only thing we've got is what is called prima facie evidence, which means there's so many different signatures, it's impossible to know which is the right one.
Well, in this particular case, and then I just started, right there, I started Googling every name.
Yes.
I Googled the company, I Googled the address, NTC, which is Nationwide Title Clearing, out of Palm Harbor, Florida.
Yep.
Okay, it was just NTC, so I just Googled the address. Then I Googled each name, and that's kind of how I ended up being associated with a group of researching people and chatting in a chat room in Florida called Foreclosure Hamlet.
Right.
And that was the real catalyst to helping me, number one, stay sane and know that I was on the right track as far as doing research.
And so then you got into being a securitization auditor, right? Went to classes.
Went to forensic auditing first.
Okay.
So forensic auditing, for those people who don't know now, that forensic auditing is all about looking at the initial transaction in terms of numbers and
Right.
a couple of other truth in lending and real estate settlement and procedures issues.
And so that has to do with the actual loan itself, the forged, fraudulent loan terms, and those other kinds of things that went on that were illegal at the creation of the loan, correct?
Yes. And that work is really done well by former mortgage brokers and people like that who are really good with numbers.
Right.
And I was sitting there like, well, this is not what I'm talking about. And I said that to my teacher. So a year later, I go back, and now we're talking about securitization auditing but securitization auditing, whether you call it chain of title assessment.
Yes.
I think that's what Dave Krieger calls HILls, and I've heard different guests on your show call it whatever. But anyway, it's an examination of the chain of title to the property. Now, we have over 300, 400 years of property laws in this country. And when they did the securitization, there are several different sets of laws that actually met at an intersection. And they all should have been in compliance, okay? But no, it did not happen. There were no red lights there. There actually was no lights there, and everything just started going in circles. So between the state laws, which govern the property and the terms upon which you must operate in transferring property within any given state, is a state law. But then when we have the note, which is governed by UCC and federal laws, there's a whole another separate set of laws. Now we find out that the person that's closing on us, or the entity, I should say, is a trust. And I think it should raise anybody's suspicion that anybody that is foreclosing on you is someone you never heard of. Had contract with. It's like, well, I took out a loan with Home Bank. Now, who are you? And none of these entities, you will never have heard of Home Bank Mortgage Trust 2005-4.
Exactly. And in our state, and I'm going to get into this real seriously next week, in our state that we have a law, it happens to be CCC, California Civil Code 2934A, which states that the only people that are authorized legally to do a trustee substitution to that, and the trustee is the one that forecloses, is the beneficiary. And all the beneficiaries have to sign. And virtually none of these trustee substitutions in any of these securitized loans has any beneficiaries signing. They're all illegal. And the point is that we've been making all this time is that we know all these laws that are being violated. How do we keep our homes? How can we stop this monster machine? So that's what we're looking for from everybody in the country as we put our heads together and try to help homeowners, the boots on the ground, to keep their homes right now. That's the real question.
And I'm gonna come to that if we have time. I just kind of want to wrap up my own personal story generally.
Perfect. Yeah, so, and then share with us who you're helping and how
so
you're
they
doing.
transferred it from MERS, and I think they wrote me a letter telling me they were going, that the servicer, and by now I've done enough research to know that in Georgia, a servicer is not a secured party creditor. Okay?
Right,
and a
exactly.
secured party creditor in Georgia is the only person who can do publication and foreclosure. And for that matter, they're the only person who can submit a legal credit bid for their property at auction.
Absolutely. And these foreclosure trustees are the ones that are taking it back. It's just such a violation from top to bottom. And I want to just interject right here. Now, we just heard today that the Department of Justice, the United States Department of Justice, is taking a hit. And that's where the fraud starts. Because if the top people in the judicial system are going to give banks a pass, then it's very difficult for all the people below, all the attorney generals and all the district attorneys to fight on their own against the United States Department of Justice. And that is where the fraud has started. The heads have been corrupted, and it's the DOJ that should have been going after these mega banks with all of these forgeries and violations of law and everything that BJ's sharing and everything that everybody else has shared. And so we're on the cusp of change, and the people in this country, all the activists, all the owners, we have to really now organize to make sure we don't let it go back into laissez-faire, where we just let the banks do whatever they want and just give up. We have to
No,
insist.
we would not go back to there. We would go to absolute poverty
Yes.
for 80% of the people in the United States before we go to laissez-faire. We may be starving, but we will be
Exactly.
crying out.
Yeah.
Because if these banks are allowed to continue to
Exactly.
take all the property that they, basically all the property.
I was told,
They-
somebody told me, and this is how I got in touch with you, is that like 80% of the people have been foreclosed in Georgia? Is that right?
Let me say this. Here's what I'm seeing in my office now. An attorney came in some months ago. He said, "Well, most of the people under 200,000 or whatever, they're either in a situation where they are comfortable keeping their homes or they've lost their home." Okay,
Right.
and meaning that, but what has happened is because so much value has been lost.
Right.
We have people now who are business people who own 5, 10 properties.
Exactly.
Well, they've been paying because they want to have a good credit score,
Exactly.
keep their business running, and keep their, but the value of their property in the terms of their loan is so ridiculous now. They got a
Exactly.
$400,000 property that's worth $125, and they
Exactly.
have a 7% interest rate, but they're hearing that everybody's getting 2 and 3%. But
Yeah.
remember, they're business people.
Exactly.
They're
And
saying, hold up, wait a minute. Somebody needs to do something for me because now they're hurting. And then, business people look long range. They say, I'll be paying for this thing for another 40 years before I can make a nickel, before I can
Exactly.
sell it.
Exactly.
Even if I sell it, they're going to want me to give them $300,000.
I know.
You know?
I know.
So
They're breaking
it's
the
that
middle
place
class.
where everybody's back is against the wall.
They're breaking the middle class, and the fact is, none of these people can ever get a loan or a loan mod. If you own several properties, the servicers don't want to play with you. They just refuse. Oh, HAMP isn't for you, and boom, you're done. So this is just truly an egregious situation, and we must stop this foreclosure process. We've got to have people keep their homes, and they need to have modified loans so that they can afford them, so that they can continue to maintain the property, because pretty much most of the vacant foreclosures now, the banks do not want to list. They're not listing foreclosures in California nearly as much. I mean, it's a huge decline. And what they're doing, they want to sell them in bulks of 1,000 or 6,000 or 10,000 homes at a whack to some hedge fund.
That's where we get, when you say that, CJ, that's where we get to another kind of level of transfer of wealth.
Right, exactly.
But Resolution Trust Corporation, mom and pop investors who had a little money could buy something, and they might buy one property, and it would support that family for years to come. But when you start putting properties in bulks of 1,000,
I know.
now you're only allowing the big boys to play. The same big
Exactly.
boys that created the math.
Exactly, and they benefit from all the fraud. It's just, we got to stop it. Hey, BJ, I've got to keep going. We've got some other updates we got to get to. We thank you so much for sharing, and we look forward to hearing, in the future, any kind of action, what is happening in Georgia, especially as you can keep people to start doing maybe their owner affidavits of false documents. I'd love to see thousands of these hit the offices and the papers. We're going to recommend that anybody that does this, when you send copies out, that we send copies to the mainstream media, because this is going to make the intangible fraud. I mean, I can't touch it or feel it. I don't have any fraud sitting here in the room. But when I have a stack of paper and every one of those is a claim against the banks for forgery and fraud and proves it, now I've turned that abstract into a tangible. And that's another thing we're really trying to work on.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, BJ, for sharing. And we look forward to the future with you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, we've got with us Jed from Mendocino County. He's working on some real action in Mendo County. Hey, Jed, you're on the air, and I've got your pictures up. Thank you. They're just really great. So, share with us what's going on in Mendocino County.
Occupy Mendocino's been pretty active in following everything that you've been doing.
Yes.
Over the last 6 or 8 months, and They've definitely rallied together to present everything from the affidavit of authority to the Board of Supervisors to the eminent domain.
And what's been happening? How are they receiving it? What's happening with the officials?
As far as the affidavit of authority, which I presented in April to our Board of Supervisors, I was basically told that we didn't have a budget to look into things further. And I've continued to email the supervisors different articles that you post, like the Supreme Court of Washington denying MERS to foreclose, stuff like that, so that they can see that there's action going on around the country. When the eminent domain strategy came about, I spoke to our board of what are they, the retiree board, to see if it was something that they would be interested in investing in as far as the bank side. And our recorder, and I enlightened them a little bit on the MERS debacle, and our recorder was actually educating some of the other people present about what MERS was and how the chain of title is getting lost because it enters a corporation.
Right.
And, so I know it was about a month ago, we did a 18-minute presentation about the eminent domain and the public banking to the Board of Supervisors, and two of them actually really took up the idea, and I think next week we're going to be meeting with two of them in Boonville to see what we can do to make it become a little more of a reality. And I don't know what the outcome of San Bernardino was yesterday, because I'm not watching your show right now, but that's definitely something that we're paying attention to see if there can be any precedents. But the county's broke. They're totally broke, and they need income, and the public banking seem to be a good way to go about it.
And Mendocino County is not the only county, and I have not yet heard from San Bernardino. In fact, we've been calling and emailing this morning to try to get some update. I don't know if I'll have it for the show today, but if not, we'll get it on Monday. And the fact of the matter is, it's really a fabulous concept of shifting the wealth from the people going into the banksters' pockets into the county and our communities. We desperately need it.
Because that the Supreme Court case, and I can't recall, that ruled that eminent domain could, private developer could basically buy blighted properties and then develop, and that was, the increased tax base was considered for the public good.
Right.
Which I hated that decision. I still, it makes me loathe. But it's really neat to be turning on its head and actually maybe be able to use it to keep people in their properties against the corporations.
What a concept! And that is the point. Now, you're actually going to try to put together. My understanding is put together as much as we can, an owner affidavit of false documents, and get that into. Go to the recorder, the DA, the police, the sheriff. Is that right? That's on the schedule as soon as we can get that put together?
Yeah, as soon as we can get it put together, and it's a little foggy for me of like exactly what we're going to be trying to do. It's clearing up with each guest that you have, but everyone presents so much amazing information. It almost feels like the volumes keep stacking up of what I need to look into and
I know.
learn.
I know. I'm struggling too, because I'm trying to organize this information in a manner that is, relatively speaking, understandable, duplicatable, clonable, and can be done by reading through, a list of instructions. Because there's going to be millions of people that want to do this, and we just don't have enough personal help. But I'm really pleased that you're willing to do this, Jed, and I'm willing to come up and help. I've been volunteering to come up and get involved with this process, because the quicker we start, and then we get feedback from the county attorney or the officials about, well, we can't do this or that, or we need this or that, then we can adjust. I mean, this is a process of building something at trial and error, put together so that we can actually help owners stop the auctions. Now, I think maybe you're facing one. I think lots of people that are on the show are facing foreclosure or already been through foreclosure. That's why there's such activists.
My house was due to be sold November 5th, and I had gone and put down the deposit for a bankruptcy, and actually I'm at Chapter 12 because I'm started an aquaponic farming business, and so that would actually eliminate all my underwater debt and bring me down to current rates, which actually would make it very affordable. But the day that I put that deposit down was the day the bank called off. It was like 5 days before my sale. They called off my foreclosure sale, and it was due to the OCC filing that you had told me to do. And I stayed up till 3 in the morning seeing out all these things, and that, I believe, is what really pushed it over the edge, because I got a call the next day after they received it about, well, what is this all about? And I've been in the real estate industry enough to hold my own, even though I feel like I'm wading into uncharted waters for myself.
We all are.
It's just really nice to have you kind of holding my hand and helping, because I really do want to set a precedent that can help everyone.
Yes.
And, Occupy Mendocino here is very willing to back anything. I mean, they are like, we want the press there, and we want signs out front. And I'm like, no, let's make this kind of a meeting where the officials aren't feeling pressured, but they know that there's a lot of support.
Right. And I think that's a wise idea. It's just like Renee said yesterday, let's not use the F word, fraud. Let's call these mistakes and say, we think, can you help us? We think there's some problems with these forms, and it seems as if they violate, this statute, this statute, this statute, this statute. We do our homework and try to get them to help us, because the bottom line is these officials already know that they've experienced, as county representatives, like you just said, this onslaught of loss, and they want to fix things too, but they have to be very careful and follow the law. And that's why I think that that's probably a really good idea. Let's try to meet, if you will, privately, show them what we've got. Let's try to make sure the county attorney is there, because we know for sure that no matter what, they're going to turn to the county attorney. So let's include them. I'm really hoping that we can get everyone together in the same room, the sheriff, the DA, the recorder, and the county attorney, and the supervisors. If supervisors are friendly, let's get them, and any city council members that might be, interested in just hearing it, so that we can say it once, and there's not going to be gossip, if you will, gossip after the session when things tend to shift. You know how that game goes. You whisper in somebody's ear, and then by the time it goes around the circle, what comes out is completely different from what was said. And so whatever we can do to develop something that can be cloned, a cookie cutter solution that owners can clone from California to Georgia, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, but I would have not even noticed the robo-signing or the differences in the signatures on my docs had you not pulled them up and looked at them and said, hey, these are different. So, and then it's the accumulation of what everyone else has been doing that has submitted to you, so you got it in a nice, easy list to find. Right. And that's the biggest part, is I don't have the time to search all over the internet looking for stuff right now. I get up at 4 in the morning just to work on my loan modification and BK paperwork, because it's the only time I can do it. And, I'm listening to your show the day after, early in the morning, when it's quiet and I can do it. But there's so much information being presented. I'm taking notes while I'm doing other stuff, and then it's trying to get back and follow up on that.
I know.
It's not easy. I mean, everybody's trying to, we're trying to make ends meet.
I know.
As well as fight these guys.
I know. So their fraud not only has benefited them personally enormously, but it's broken the economy. And so basically half of those foreclosures now are people that lost jobs due to the economy, and their conventional loans. Many of them had significant monies as down payments. And so, literally, just like BJ said in Georgia, it's ruining everybody. It's ruining the middle class. It's hurt the poor and those it's obvious that the banks were completely racist and they targeted individuals, the Hispanics and the blacks and the elderly. I mean, it without a doubt they did that, which is completely horrible. But they've also ruined everybody else, and because of the drop in the values and the artificial ballooning in values that caused so many people to buy properties at the wrong time, and so now they're all looking at loss. And we just have to stop this. We just have to stop this. And I thank you, Jed, so much for your effort and your work on this. I look forward to getting together with you and meeting with the officials in Mendocino County. And then we'll report back. We'll expect a report to the viewers so that they can take confidence that we're taking another step forward.
Yeah, well, hopefully the next report will actually be something laid out that people can follow.
Yeah.
Because I definitely email everybody I know that's in the real estate industry on all your updates saying, look at this, get involved with this site, email your board supervisors to require an affidavit of authority. And no one's really doing it because it doesn't, their hands aren't up to the fire, but
Right.
or their feet aren't to the fire. But,
Right.
it's what you're doing is amazing because you're doing it selflessly. And, I really feel like you are really a true American hero. And thank you a
Thanks.
lot for what you're doing.
Thanks. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but it's the challenge and the opportunity of our lifetime. And I'm going to have a plan, because I tell you, the people that really want to know this information and that would be our super advocates are all the owners that are facing auction. And so I've been coming up with a plan of how we can get all of those owners on board. I want to share that with you next week. Thanks, Jed. We look forward to it. Thanks so much for sharing.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Jean, is this you?
Yes, it is.
Hey, introduce yourself, please, to the viewers. And this is Jean Johnson, Fresno County, California.
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead, Jean. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing.
Right. I'm okay.
Oh, he's on the phone, I think. Go ahead.
CJ?
Yes, go. Oh, Jean, do you have the live stream going?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I just turned off the sound.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because you'll get the feedback.
Yeah. Oh, wow, what a picture, huh?
Well, I
But
snagged
anyway,
it.
my name is Gene Johnson. I'm in Fresno County. My AKA name is Hydrogene because of my involvement with hydrogen with Governor Schwarzenegger. But the picture that you see on the screen right now is a picture of me testifying at Obama's mortgage fraud task force that was held in Fresno back in September of 2010. Fresno was only one of 5 cities in the nation that the task force came to, and it came to the brand new federal building in Fresno, California. Anyway, I've been involved with this Ponzi scheme by the banks since October of 2007. At the time, I had 2 properties worth over $1 million as appraised value, but because of my retirement from United Airlines after 25 years, I had a very good pension. But what happened is that United Airlines filed for bankruptcy, and guess what? All the pensions were thrown out the window. So I got into trouble with my mortgages, and out of necessity, I started to learn about the problems that the banks have created for all of us.
Yes.
And so that's what I've been trying to do, to educate as many people as I can. And I'm a part of the 14 Mayors Coalition of Fresno County, and have been keeping them up to date with regards to this Ponzi scheme for about 3 years also. And the thing is that the average person doesn't know what to do. They don't
Yes.
understand this whole Ponzi scheme. Even the banks don't understand it because they don't know what the left hand is doing from the right
That's
hand.
right. That's
and
right.
so they file all these fraudulent documents. CJ, I'm sorry, saying fraudulent is not the word we should be using now. These mistakes that the banks made, right? And that's a good point to use
Yeah.
in the fact that they've already admitted that they were mistakes. What are we
Right.
going to do to correct those mistakes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Why can they still take our homes when these are all these mistakes?
Right. They've stolen everybody's home. And if you go to the website that I sent to you regarding the Obama Mortgage Fraud Task Force, you will see that what I had to say in the videos.
Right.
Those
It's
two things
linked
is
on the
exactly
website.
what we're talking about,
Yeah.
and the fact that the banks have created this Ponzi scheme and are stealing people's homes right out from under them because the average person doesn't know what to do.
Well, we feel powerless because many people have gone into court. And this has been one of my dilemmas for this whole last year. I've been researching, trying to figure out how can the people do something that they can actually do without on their own volition, rather than having to try to find some attorney, which was really tough and just a gamble seemed to be, or finding having to go into court pro per, which most people just aren't going to do that, and they'll walk away from the house first. And this is the problem. They go into court, and then the judge says, "Well, did you borrow the money?" They said, "Yes." Have you stopped making your payments? Yes. Okay, then the bank gets the house. I mean, regardless of any of the other claims or pleadings or lawsuits, that is the key. And that's what Harold said, I think, a couple days ago. When you go into court, you have to just absolutely never agree that this is the debt. You have to deny the debt, deny, 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 deny. You can never accept the debt, because otherwise they'll judge against you in favor of the bank.
Exactly. Well, CJ, what you're talking about, I've been through the modification process, sending in documents.
Yes.
They say, well, we don't have them, right? And
Yeah.
then they did a dual tracking and foreclosed on me at the same time.
Right.
I filed a lawsuit in April of 2009 against them, okay?
Right.
And I went at pro per because I couldn't afford. I mean, I lost my
Right.
pension. I was living on Social Security. I couldn't afford an attorney. So I went pro per. And the first day I was in court with the judge, I had two binders, 3 inches thick. And the judge asked me, well, what do you have to say? And I said, well, Your Honor, you see these two binders. This is all my evidence. I said, I liken my case to the old Abbott and Costello bit that they used to do in the radio years ago called Who's On First? And he started laughing. He says, yes, Mr. Johnson, your case is very complicated. Anyway, from that point, I finally, after about the third time in court, I really realized that I was out of my league. So I hired an attorney, okay?
Yeah.
And I taught him everything that I knew that he didn't know
Right.
about the mortgage frauds.
Right.
And
Right.
then finally, we had about 3 or 4 case management hearings, and every time we would show up, they would be on the phone and they would delay it another 3 months. So finally, 4 days before Christmas, we had another case management hearing, and they decided, well, we'll delay it until February of 2010. Well, 2 days later, they filed an ex parte without our knowledge a day before Christmas, and my attorney didn't show up in court, and neither did I, and the judge ruled against us in regards to certain parties that I had filed a lawsuit against, and they went ahead and sold my house out from under me.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
but I still fought them because
Right.
Index West, the trustee, was still a part. They didn't. The judge did not dismiss them. But anyway, it's been a whole. I mean,
Right.
I've had 6 judges. I've had 2 attorneys. Neither one of them know what they were doing, and so it's been a frustrating thing. Finally, the last judge dismissed my case because technicalities. But that's another thing. But here's the point that I want to bring out to
Yes.
everybody today. 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court of California ruled in favor of a homeowner in regards to, I'll read to you. It's California Supreme Court, Rivers Land Cold Storage Incorporated versus Fresno Madera Production Credit Association. Oral promises by lenders can be used in foreclosure cases.
Right.
Then the lead judge says, but the court, in an opinion by Justice Carol Corrigan, said the 1935 ruling was poorly reasoned, had been rejected by other states, and many actually provides a shield for fraudulent conduct.
Right.
And here's the point that I want to make. Of all the foreclosures that have happened and modifications that have been tried, the banks have always told the people you have to be 3 months behind in your payments before we can do a modification.
Exactly.
And then they go ahead and file a foreclosure on them.
That's right. They start that dual tracking.
This Supreme Court case says that if they lie to you, even though it's not in a contract, it's oral, you could file a lawsuit against them for lying to you and forcing you into a foreclosure situation by being 3 months behind.
Right.
The key to that whole thing. Anyway.
Right, and I want to tell the viewers, Gene sent me that lawsuit. I will get it uploaded. And this is, this is another one of those fraudulent things. They say things to you over the phone. People believe them because it's coming from, they think, the bank, even though it's technically a servicer. And so then they follow that, and then they get cheated. And this has been the outrageousness of the whole mess, is that fraud is just going run amok. It's going unchecked. Now, Gene, before you go, I'd like you to share with us what you told me last night about Dave Krieger and also about the Kentucky lawsuit.
Oh, yes. Okay. The Kentucky lawsuit by Attorney General Connor is a blueprint, just like O'Brien's situation regarding Lorraine Brown and Marie McDonald in regards to Lorraine Brown pleading guilty to forging millions of documents for DocX and
Right.
LPS.
Right.
And it's reverberating around the nation.
Yes.
I've got so many binders, CJ, in regards.
I know. You don't have to quote stuff. It's just, that's great. I've got it linked. You sent it to me. It's on the legal action by state under Kentucky. You can read the lawsuit. I've got the article linked. Tell us about what's going on in Texas, about that audit.
Yeah, the Texas thing is that Dave Krieger, who has a company, he's put out a book called Clouded Titles a couple of years ago. And he did a forensic of the county recorder in Texas, his GK Consultants. And again, the fraud is there. This next Tuesday on the 29th, they will be
Right.
having just like the Connor did in his video, they're going to have this same situation in Texas. Again, these recorders are now starting to realize that they've been scammed along with the rest
Exactly.
of it. And the money that the counties have not gotten from the
Yep.
filing fees
Yep.
is major situation in regards to having, like, for instance, Stockton filed for bankruptcy, San Bernardino filed for bankruptcy, Vallejo filed for bankruptcy because of the situation of the money that has not been paid to the counties because of these fraudulent documents not being recorded.
Right.
Anyway,
And so Dave is now in Texas, right?
well, Dave he's down in Florida right now. He's flying
Okay,
in Tuesday
flying in.
to
Okay.
that meeting because he's going to be part of the presentation because of the documents that he's done the forensic on. So it's undeniable now, and these judges. Well, as an example, my first judge, I said, well, you know what? I've got mirrors on my. I wonder if he's got mirrors on his mortgages. It comes to find out, they went to the courthouse. He has 2 mortgages with mirrors. I said, well, wait a minute. If this judge has it, that to me seems like he has mirrors on his mortgage. I have mirrors on my mortgage.
Right.
That means to me that he has a contract with mirrors and I have a contract with MERS. he should recuse himself because he's ruling on my case when he's part of MERS, in a sense. Okay? So I went and downloaded every judge in the state of California. Plus, then I isolated Fresno County, and there's 41 judges in Fresno County, and I come to find out that 65% of them, or 27 out of the 41, had MERS on their mortgage. They don't even know it. And their pension funds are a lot of them are mortgage-backed securities. So they're being hurt just like the rest of us in regards to whatever damage that's been occurred by what the banks have done. So everybody, there's so many different avenues, CJ, and what you've done is to put together in one stop shopping situation on your website so that we can all be on the same page at the same time to force everybody that has the power to make this stop, this madness stop, is one spot, and that's your website, I feel.
Well, thanks, Gene, and you're absolutely right, because I'm telling you, like I've said before on this on this show, we don't have very many friends, virtually none in the administration. That's the federal government. Even the attorney generals have been, if you will, forced to sell out. A $25 billion settlement for an $11 trillion fiasco is nothing, and millions of people have lost their homes. Oh my God. Go ahead. Yeah. So I just wanted to tell you though, because I've been telling people, and as you've noticed, most everybody on this show is over 30 or over 40. I mean, most of us are over 50 or older.
Well, I'm 75. By the picture.
And this is the challenge of our generation. We need to get this technology under our belt, and it's not that hard. You can do Skype. You can get a webcam. They're about $25. You can stick it on your computer. You can download Skype, and you can connect with me, and we can talk face to face. But you can also instant message me during the shows. IM works like a champ. I actually interact with my administrator, Gail, who's so helpful in all of this and in supporting and getting people on the phone and getting us ready to get the show done. She'll instant message me. We can talk back and forth. And when you can instant message on Skype, you can send me a note and tell me what's going on so that I can get it on the air. So here's one I wanted to share, and it ties right in with what you're saying, Jane. From Stu, you remember last Friday, Stu Nelson down from Texas. He's the one that brought this to our attention initially about this audit that's going to be in the Williamson County to the supervisors coming on Tuesday. And he just said that KVUE News in Austin, Texas, was just at Wilco, that's the city, I believe, about the mortgage documents. They're getting some news, and they're filming a report. And so he said to check it out tonight. I'm telling the viewers, as soon as we get that report, I will stick it on this update on the comment sections. I'm doing all the links I can under the comments for these live stream shows, because these live stream shows are all archived. They're always going to be there. And you can share each one of these shows individually or the channel itself with other people just by email. You just go down and click on share, and up comes the complete address of that particular live stream show, and then you can just copy and paste that into an email and send it out to your address book. We need to get the owners on board, and we need to get everybody. They'll be the biggest activists. Trust me. Have you noticed how many of these people that are activists, they've fought it themselves? They've, just like Gene said, would you have been this involved if you still had your property?
Oh, without a doubt. Well, again, yes, because just out of due diligence and out of necessity to save my home, I tried to help as many people as I can. And fraud is fraud, and the justice is not being served. They say justice is blind. Well, they are not only blind, but they're deaf and dumb, because they say they can't find it.
Yeah, see no
Find
evil,
any
hear no
fraud.
evil.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
It's all out there. It's, anyway.
Exactly. I sure appreciate you sharing today, and we look forward to really keeping us updated, because I wanted to mention one more thing, and I know we're just about out of time. The Gene and I first connected quite a while ago on the fact that those 14 mayors in Fresno, didn't they have a meeting with Mortgage Resolution Partners?
Yes, they did, and yes, and I had a private meeting with them also. And there's some good things about what Resolution is doing, but there's some bad things also. I feel that they did it as a shotgun approach by including all of the banks into one eminent domain. It needs to be done individually because, again, it's just like a class action. The homeowner doesn't win in a class action; the attorneys win.
Right.
So you have to pinpoint, because we're all in the same boat as far as the procedures are concerned, but each individual has different players in their process.
Right.
So you have to pinpoint each individual mortgage based on the players in that case.
Right, and Mortgage Resolution Partners, just for the viewers, and we're going to go into this more as we get into secondary, third steps into getting restitution and fixing the crisis for the people. And that is Mortgage Resolution Partners is an investment group aligned with in San Francisco, and I think aligned with Willie Brown, and they have gone around. They went to San Bernardino County, and obviously they went to Fresno County and met with supervisors and mayors, and they're trying to eminent domain specific loans, my words, for their private profits. They did not want to eminent domain all of them. They didn't want to take the ones that were already in default or already foreclosed and vacant and a blight on the area. They just wanted to eminent domain performing loans so that those investors could make money. and that's just outrageous.
That's what I brought to their attention when I met with them in different venues and with the mayors. Because I said, well, why are you just going after people who haven't been foreclosed on? Why aren't you going after the helping the people who's been foreclosed on?
Right.
So anyway, that's.
Yeah. We'll be talking about that more next week. Right now, this is CJ Holmes signing off for Homeowners for Justice. Thank you for watching these wonderful updates. Heads are starting to roll, and we need to take a positive action to make sure that we, the owners, keep the advantage. Talk to you next week.